Salam keluarga Malaysia. Hello and good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brendan Lepal and you're watching News at 10. In our top stories tonight. Agong calls on Malaysians, all agencies to be ready for floods. And Perikatan's letter to Agong irrelevant to government legitimacy. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Rayatuddin Al-Mustafa Bilal Shah today called on all relevant agencies to make thorough and comprehensive preparations to face the risk of flooding due to the northeast monsoon. Al-Sultan Abdullah said the preparations are not only in reducing flood impacts but in devising a method to ensure that assistance to the victims can be provided in a planned, prompt and effective manner. His Majesty said this is in line with the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, who demanded his people to always make preparations to deal with any possibility in the future. Every year in November, the country is faced with the risk of flooding, and recently, the Malaysian Meteorological Department, Met Malaysia, predicted that Malaysia would face heavy rains and the risks of major floods. Al-Sultan Abdullah said he would like to remind the people to brace themselves and make preparations to face possible weather phenomena. His Majesty said this at the national level Maulidur Rasul celebration at the World Trade Center, Kuala Lumpur, today. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Rayatuddin Al-Mustafa Bilal Shah also decreed that the country's leaders should make the Prophet Muhammad's way of ruling as an example in various aspects, especially administration. Al-Sultan Abdullah said Prophet Muhammad called for a close relationship between the leaders and the community based on affection and respect towards one another. His Majesty said Prophet Muhammad had taught every leader to set the right intentions, be honest in carrying out the responsibilities entrusted to them, and embrace the value of taqwa, piety, as the main principle. A feel-good story here. Retired Chinese kindergarten teacher Chi Hoi Lan today received the 2022 National Maulidur Rasul Award for her sacrifices in bringing up her Muslim adoptive daughter according to the Islamic faith. The 83-year-old Chi earned the Ibu Sejati Keluarga Malaysia Icon Award. She had single-handedly raised Rohana Abdullah, 20, since she was 2 months old, garnering the public and government's attention and praise as she had brought up and cared for the girl, although they belonged to different religions. Rohana is the daughter of an Indonesian woman who worked at Chi's kindergarten and was left behind in Malaysia when her mother was forced to return to her country. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Rayatuddin Al-Mustafa Bilal Shah presented the awards at this year's National Maulidur Rasul celebration held at the World Trade Center in conjunction with Prophet Muhammad's birthday. The Perdana Maulidul Rasul Award went to corporate figure Tan Sri Syed Zainal Abidin Muhammad Tahir, who is also a board member of the Federal Territory's Islamic Religious Council and chairman of its Education Committee. The 12th Perikatan Nasional PN ministers expressing opposition to the 15th general election G15 being held this year has nothing to do with the legitimacy of the current government, according to Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob. The Prime Minister said according to the federal constitution, the government would lose support only if it had less than the required 112 seats or a simple majority.
Tetapi kalau dalam sokongan daripada ahli dewan masih lagi intact, tidak ada perubahan. Jadi tidak adalah isu yang mengatakan kerajaan kolaps. Menteri Kabinet tidak ada korup. Kalau tarik diri Menteri Kabinet tulis surat, dia tidak kata letak jawatan. Kalau Menteri Kabinet letak jawatan sekalipun, Kabinet masih berfungsi dan kerajaan masih berfungsi.
Met on the sidelines of the national level Maulidur Rasul celebration in the nation's capital today, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri said there will be no impact on the legitimacy of the government because members of parliament will still give their support as usual. On Thursday, past Deputy President Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man confirmed that all the ministers from PN had sent a letter to Istana Negara stating that they are against holding the GE15 this year. To come, over 7,000 development projects to be implemented next year. Stay tuned. But first, the Ministry of Defence, MINDEF, will study the budget 2023 allocations it has received within the next 2 months with a focus on 4 main cores. According to Senior Defence Minister Datuk Sri Hishamuddin Tun Hussein, he said in total, MINDEF has received 17.37 billion ringgit for 2023, an increase of 1.23 billion ringgit or 7.8% compared with the previous year's allocation. He added that of that amount, operational expenditure increased by 2.7% to 11.41 billion ringgit and development expenditure increased by 18.3% to 5.96 billion ringgit.
Lepas kita dah rincikan jumlah tu, saya kena beri prioriti, keutamaan. Keutamaan tu kena bincang dengan tiga-tiga perkhidmatan. Jadi banyak perkara yang nak dipikirkan. Tapi yang penting tambahan. Itu saya bangga dan saya kagum dan ia melegakan saya sedikit untuk bernafas. Kalau jumlah yang diumumkan.
Datuk Sri Hishamuddin said this after officiating the closing ceremony of the Army Carnival 2022 at the mini stadium Taman Sri Lamba, Kluang today. The Member of Parliament for Sembrong also said that the 4 cores are the purchase of new assets, maintenance of existing assets, the well-being of Malaysian Armed Forces ATM veterans, and improvement of the welfare of defence personnel. However, he said that MINDEF always thinks outside the box and does not look at budget allocation as the only method to strengthen the ministry and ATM. A total of 7,615 development projects, 1,724 new projects and 5,891 extension projects will be implemented next year. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Economy, Datuk Sri Mustafa Muhammad said that the implementation of development projects according to schedule is crucial to fulfill the aspirations of Keluarga Malaysia to enjoy better socio-economic status. He said on 13 October, the Chief Secretary to the government, Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali, and himself will co-chair a meeting to facilitate the implementation of national development projects with all ministries to ensure that they are ready with their respective implementation plans and that all issues can be resolved immediately.
Jadi semua negeri insya-Allah akan mendapat tambahan peruntukan dan kira-kira 50% daripada peruntukan ini, peruntukan pembangunan asas kita panggil, adalah untuk 6 negeri yang paling miskin. Yang pentingnya satu lagi ialah tahun depan kita beri banyak perhatian kepada kerja-kerja penyegaraan.
Datuk Seri Mustafa said this to reporters after meeting with the participants in the Keluarga Malaysia Hardcore Poverty Eradication Program (BMTKM) in Kampung Golok, Bachok today. He said the development allocation for next year's budget is the highest in history at 95 billion ringgit, with an increase of 19.4 billion ringgit or 25.7% from the 75.6 billion ringgit in 2022. A total of 90 out of 339 5G sites in Sarawak have been completed as of 5th October. Communications and Multimedia Minister Tan Sri Anwar Musa said the construction of 5G sites in Kuching, Bintulu and Miri is expected to be fully completed at the end of next year. He said the 5G network in the areas is also expected to be a catalyst to support the state government's digital economy agenda. He added Sarawak Energy had been asked to assist as the facilities depend on a stable electricity supply. He said this in a press conference after the Peranti Siswa handing over ceremony at the Teacher Education Institute IPG Sarawak campus in Miri today. At the ceremony, over 500 students from various institutions received the device. Meanwhile, Tan Sri Anwar said the Communications and Multimedia Ministry is committed to expediting the distribution of Peranti Siswa to recipients, adding that it aims to distribute 80% of the devices by the end of November. And in other news, V Convention 2022, the largest gathering of network marketing professionals associated with the QI Group's flagship business, QNet, returns to Pulau Pinang with renewed vigour this week after a hiatus of 2 years. It is being attended by more than 15,000 entrepreneurs from over 30 countries. Pomp and pageantry heralded the convention's opening ceremony on Friday, where a multitude of men and women dressed in colourful national costumes, depicting an array of cultures and traditions from around the globe. State Tourism and Creative Economy Committee Chairman Yeo Soon Hin applauded QNet's accomplishment of ushering many successful international entrepreneurs from West Asia, Central Asia, Africa, the Indian subcontinent and Indonesia to Malaysia. He said this has indirectly boosted Pulau Pinang's tourism industry, with the convention expected to generate an economic impact of 157 million ringgit for the state. Themed Be the Change, the 5-day gathering that ends 11 October marks the first physical V convention since 2019, after nearly 3 years of COVID-19 restrictions on large meetings. Also present at the ceremony included QI Group Executive Chairman Datuk Sri Vijay Eswaran and QNet Chief Executive Officer Malu Kaluza, among other dignitaries. QNet retails various products from wellness, personal care and beauty, holidays, home care and e-learning courses, enhancing the everyday lives of its customers around the world. In our foreign segment, 12 killed, dozens hurt in missile strike on Zaporizhia. Stay tuned. But first, Israeli occupation forces are searching for a suspected gunman in connection with the killing of an 18-year-old Israeli soldier at a checkpoint near the occupied East Jerusalem. The Israeli military today identified the soldier as 18-year-old Noah Lazar. He added that 3 other soldiers were wounded, one of them seriously. Saturday's shooting at the checkpoint at the Palestinian refugee camp of Shuafat in East Jerusalem came after Israeli forces killed 4 Palestinian teenagers in the last 24 hours amid near-daily Israeli raids in Palestinian territories. More than 114 Palestinians have been killed by Israel since the beginning of the year in the occupied West Bank in the deadliest violence in 7 years. The United Nations on Saturday warned that mounting violence in the occupied Palestinian Palestinian territory was fueling a climate of fear, hatred and anger. Israeli police said the alleged gunman was driven to the checkpoint by an accomplice. He got out of the car, opened fire and ran into the camp as the driver sped away. The occupation forces cordoned off the area near the checkpoint and officers remained at the entrance and exit of East Jerusalem. 3 Palestinians in their 20s from East Jerusalem were also arrested on suspicion of involvement in the attack. At least 12 people were killed and 49 hospitalized, including 6 children, as a result of missile strikes in Ukraine's southeastern city of Zaporizhia. Alexander Staruk, the governor of the Zaporizhia region, said there may be more people under the rubble. According to Staruk, a 9-story building was partially destroyed overnight, 5 other residential buildings leveled, and many more damaged in 12 Russian missile attacks. Staruk also said a rescue operation is underway at the scene, adding that 8 people have already been rescued so far. Emergency service workers were seen carrying bodies out of a devastated apartment block. Earlier, city official Anatoly Kurtev said at least 17 people were killed when missiles hit a high-rise apartment complex and buildings. The city is about 52 kilometers from a Russian-held nuclear power plant that is Europe's largest. Kyiv and Moscow have blamed each other for shelling at the Ukrainian-operated facility, which has damaged buildings and threatens a catastrophic nuclear accident. And traffic resumed on Saturday over a key bridge linking Russia with Crimea, seen as a symbol of the Kremlin's annexation of the peninsula. After it was partially destroyed by an explosion Moscow blamed on a truck bomb. The Kremlin announced on the same day the appointment of a new general to lead its Ukraine offensive following a series of battlefield setbacks that triggered unprecedented criticism of its army at home. The 19-kilometer bridge was hit by a blast around dawn on Saturday, killing 3 people, setting several oil tankers ablaze, and collapsing 2 car lanes. The explosion drew celebrations from Ukrainians and others on social media, but the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky made no direct mention of it in his nightly address, and officials made no claim of responsibility. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Marat Kushnulin had confirmed the resumption is for both freight and passenger traffic, adding that one of the destroyed lanes would be restored in the near future. Local officials had said earlier in the day that the bridge had been reopened to motor traffic with vehicles subject to stringent screening, while rail operator Grand Service Express said the first trains had left the peninsula for Moscow and St. Petersburg. Rescue workers were facing bad weather conditions as they tried to recover bodies from the site of an avalanche in the Indian Himalayas within the northern state of Uttarakhand today. Bad weather in the higher regions had earlier forced officials to halt rescue operations. Disaster Management Officer Devendra Patwal said 10 bodies were recovered today. Patwal added that the bodies were brought to Matli and the process of carrying out postmortems was underway. Patwal also said their relatives had been informed, adding that the bodies would be sent to Dehradun later. A group consisting of 34 trainees preparing for high-altitude navigation and accompanied by 7 instructors was caught in the avalanche last Tuesday. The group had been making its way back from a mountain peak, Draupadi Ka Danda 2, at 5,670 meters when the avalanche struck. At least 27 were killed. The group mainly consisted of trainees from the Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, a well-known state-run mountaineering school. Coming up in sports, Verstappen retains Formula One title at chaotic Japanese Grand Prix. Stay with us. Malaysian motoring fans will get to witness three countrymen racing alongside the world's top racers at the 2022 Malaysia Motorcycle Grand Prix (GP) at the Sepang International Circuit (SIC) from 21st to 23rd October. According to Petronas, the main sponsor of the Malaysian Grand Prix, the trio are Azroy Hakim Anwar, Kasma Daniel Kasmayuddin, and Khairul Idham Pawi, or better known as Superkip, who were given wildcard tickets to compete in the Moto2 class.
Sure memang tough lah sebab dorang setiap race, setiap weekend ada race dekat setiap negara, and saya pula asyik race dekat Asia, tiba-tiba nak beralih ke Europe pula, memang lain lah kat situ level je. Tapi yang pasti saya akan cuba kecilkan jurang tu lah.
Diorang just reveal untuk wildcard rider, tapi diorang perlu masih untuk membuat keputusan lagi kerana cuma 2 rider saja yang akan terpilih. So apa yang lebih banyak saya tahu, saya cuma dapat tahu yang saya akan berada race di wildcard, dan untuk rider-rider 2 orang lagi lah.
Khairul Idham had previously competed in the Moto3 and Moto2 classes at the Malaysian Grand Prix, the last time being in the 2018 season, while Kasma Daniel was given a wildcard ticket in the Moto3 category in the 2017 season. The presence of the 3 riders makes it a total of 4 local riders about to make an appearance at the Malaysian GP after Sharifuddin Azman, better known as Damo, also got a wildcard ticket in the Moto3 class last August. And in football, Negeri Sembilan FC have kept alive their chances to finish in the top 3 of the 2022 Super League after recording a 4-3 victory over Kedah Darul Aman FC at the Tuanku Abdul Rahman Stadium in Paroi, Negeri Sembilan last night. The Hobin Jang Hobin squad began the game strong, making several counter-attacks early on, and K. Devon's men opened the scoring in the 25th minute through Brazilian import striker Alves Leandro Mateus with the assist from Yashe Pinto. The Sangkanari squad, however, equalized in injury time of the first half through midfielder Mahmoud Al-Mardi, who drilled a shot from outside the penalty box. Negeri Sembilan's import player Gustavo put in an excellent performance in the second half, scoring goals in the 58th and 70th minutes, with Sean Selvaraj putting in one in the 66th minute to make it 4-0. But the drama was not over as the Sangkanari squad closed the gap after Sandrabat Detmit and Mark Alves scored Kedah's second and third goals in the 83rd and 90th minutes, and the home side sighed a breath of relief as the final whistle was blown. With 3 valuable points earned, Negeri Sembilan currently sit 4th in the league with 38 points, just behind Terengganu on goal difference and 1 point behind second place Sabah. They next face Melaka United on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Kedah coach Aidil Sharin Saha admitted that the result didn't favour his team in the Super League match against Negeri Sembilan at the Tuanku Abdul Rahman Stadium in Paroi yesterday. Although he commended his players for their fighting spirit, which sparked their fight back towards the end of the second half, Aidil said simple mistakes and loss of focus contributed to Kedah's 4-3 defeat by Negeri Sembilan last night.
Yeah, I think the boys give everything, and I think it's a good game. We can see 7 goals in the game. They took their chances. But second half, I think, we are not focused enough. The 3 goals coming from our left side and 3 crosses coming from there, and we made mistake. So this is the thing, in football you make mistake and they get a chance and they score. But overall, I think the boys gave everything. They worked very hard. They didn't give up until the final whistle.
And in German football, Borussia Dortmund's Anthony Modest headed in a last-gasp equaliser to complete a sensational 2-goal comeback and snatch a 2-2 draw against visitors Bayern Munich and the Bundesliga's Der Klassiker early this morning. Modest, under massive criticism after having netted just once in the league following his arrival this season to replace ailing Sebastian Haller, headed in at the far post with the last touch of the game, after also setting up their first goal to rescue a point for his team and keep Bayern off top spot. Leon Goretzka had fired the visitors in front in the 33rd minute before Leroy Sané added another in the 53rd in the high-intensity encounter in front of a sold-out 81,000-strong crowd at the Signal Iduna Park in Dortmund. Yusufa Moukoko cut the deficit in the 74th minute to become the youngest scorer in the history of Der Klassiker. At 17 years old, as Bayern ended the game with 10 men after Kingsley Coman was sent off in the 90th minute with a second booking. The Bavarians, who face Viktoria Pilsen in the Champions League on Wednesday, are on 16 points, as many as Dortmund, with Union Berlin and Freiburg, both on 17, in action today. Red Bull's Max Verstappen wrapped up a second successive Formula One title today with victory in a rain-shortened Japanese Grand Prix after his closest rival, Charles Leclerc, was hit with a post-race penalty. Verstappen started Sunday's race from pole. He was beaten off the line by Leclerc in the wet but went wheel-to-wheel with the Ferrari, spray streaming behind them over the first two corners and seized back the initiative. Incidents involving several cars brought out a safety car before the opening lap could be completed, while a recovery vehicle deployed on the track caused alarm as Pierre Gasly's Alpha Tauri sped past. The conditions forced a halt to the race on the second lap, and after the 2-hour delay, it resumed with a rolling start. But Verstappen disappeared into the distance and was classified as having finished 27 seconds clear of his teammate. Dutchman Verstappen crossed the line ahead of the Ferrari driver, who, defending against the other Red Bull of Sergio Perez, took the checkered flag a distant second. But the Monegasque had 5 seconds penalty added to his race time for cutting across the final chicane on the last lap, which dropped him down to third. The result gave Verstappen an unassailable 113-point lead in the championship, making him only the third driver after Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel to clinch the title with 4 races to spare. An Italian cyclist has broken a cycling world record for number of kilometers cycled in an hour. Filippo Ganna cycled a total of 56.729 kilometers, beating the last record by 1,244 meters. Ganna smashed the record at the Tissot Velodrome, an indoor cycling track in Switzerland. Ganna rode a special designed bike made with a 3D printer, and he didn't complete his record by cycling on the road. He cycled in a velodrome. The previous record was set by Ganna's teammate Daniel Bigham of Britain. Both men cycled for Ineos Grenadiers. He also beat the 56.375 kilometer mark set by Chris Boardman in 1996, using the controversial Superman position. That performance had long been seen as unbeatable, as the Englishman was using Superman-style handlebars. That distance had been cancelled by the International Cycling Union after a change in equipment regulations. The International Cycling Union, UCI, since then tightened the rules. As the first Italian to set the hour record since Francesco Moser in 1984, Ganna has established himself in recent years as one of the most successful riders of his generation, with World Time Trial titles in 2020 and 2021, 4 individual pursuit gold medals at the Worlds and Tokyo